Well, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know we have some other attendees that are still arriving, and they can find their way to a seat if they're just coming in. As I said, lunch will be served in just a little while. We'll be dismissing you table by table and continuing through the program during our lunch today. I want to thank just up front our sponsors, which we have listed here to the side. Ohio Pal Prints and Somerset Trust were kind enough to provide our lunch today, so a big round of applause to both of them for helping us out. We also offer special thanks to all of our speakers today, and we'll do that again as we introduce each of them. Our first speaker today is Jonna Pro. Jonna is with the Department of Community and Economic Development. You may know that as DCED. She's the Regional Director for the Southwest. Jonna A. Pro is a 1982 graduate of Charleroi High School, so she's not from too far from here. She earned a degree in journalism and public relations from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Following graduation, she began writing for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Jonna was an adjunct professor of journalism at Point Park University, where she taught all levels of journalism for more than a decade. Beginning in 2005, she served in state-level communications, budget, and media roles in Harrisburg. In 2011, she resumed her media career, writing for magazines and online publications, and working as a talk radio host at KDKA Radio and the Union Edge Radio. In 2015, Jonna was named Southwest Regional Director for the state's Department of Community and Economic Development. In that role, she leads a team of professionals dedicated to the prospect of rebuilding communities in 13 of our western Pennsylvania counties. So put your hands together and welcome to the podium, Jonna Pro.
You know, as soon as the representative took the microphone earlier, I said, that's a radio guy. He's got that radio voice. So it's great to be here in the 51st District today. And, you know, I can always tell when I am working with young legislative staffers, because I'm really old and have been around this game for more than 30 years. Either directly in politics or in public service or in journalism. And I know when I'm working with young staff like Laura and Amanda, because they say, are you going to bring a PowerPoint? Okay, which makes my assistant laugh because I can't make the iPhone work. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I do have a napkin. So I'm sort of here to kind of set the tone for today's discussion because we have some great folks around the room who have far more expertise than I have. But in the role of Regional Director for the state's Department of Community and Economic Development, I do serve 12 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania, and my job is to connect nonprofit organizations, local elected officials and communities, and small business owners with state programs. And I can tell you that at least once a week, I get a phone call. And maybe some of you in the room, maybe our friends from over at the bank, get this phone call too. And no offense to the guys in the room, but it's usually a guy. And on the other end of the phone, they say, hey, yeah, like, I'm gonna open a business, and I think I want to do a brewery. Okay. Do you have a business plan? No. Do you have any money? No. Did you do a market analysis? No. Do you own a piece of property or have a lease for a piece of property? No. That's not a good way to start. Okay? Those are the kinds of questions that we would be asking at the state level. But before anyone gets to the state level, and while you're and if you're here because you want to start a business, if you want to grow a business, these are the kinds of questions that you need to have answered before you make a phone call. And if you're not sure where to start, the first place to start is with the resources that can help you answer those questions. And whenever I do these kinds of talks, the first place I always send folks to are the small business development centers. Is somebody here from the SBDC today? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry. I didn't get to say hello. So these guys are our best friends. Because when I get that phone call from the guy who wants to open a brewery because his buddies like to drink beer, I send them over to the small business development centers and also to our team of folks in Harrisburg, where we now have a one-stop shop for small business. Those two different groups can provide all of the basic guidance that folks need as they're starting to think about either starting a small business or expanding or growing an existing small business, which we define in Pennsylvania as a business that has, under 500 employees, right? Is that pretty much about the definition we all use? Kind of around that? Okay. So those are the sort of questions folks need to be asking themselves. Because we can't do anything if you don't have those answers. And opening a business, investing in one of our communities, is more than just a notion. And we can be helpful, and we want to be helpful. But at the very least, you have to bring something to the table. And the first thing that you have to bring to the table is a good, solid business plan and some information. I see a nice lady over here nodding her head, Tanya, I think it is. That business plan is really key for us. It's key for us. It's key for your local elected officials who you will be reaching out to. It's key to your local county officials who you will reach out to secondly. And then they will probably lead you to us to see if there are any state programs that can be helpful to you. And those are the kinds of questions that we will be asking. So that is really my message for today, to sort of kick off your thinking as you begin your discussion over lunch and then listen to the other speakers. It's really, what kind of information do I need to make this happen? And I can tell you that we want to see you make it happen, and we want to see you succeed. As the Regional Director for Community and Economic Development, I have a lot of opportunity, not just in the city of Pittsburgh or the county of Allegheny, but in communities all throughout southwestern Pennsylvania, particularly places like Fayette County. We've got some wonderful programs. We've got wonderful investment opportunities for folks, and we can be helpful. But as I said earlier, it's more than just a notion. It's more than just a notion, because ultimately, the folks who are going to help you move your project forward or your business forward are folks like our friends at Somerset Bank and Trust, right? And if you think we're going to ask you hard questions, if they're underwriting something, they're really going to want to know that the dollars are there, that the plan is there, that the investment that they make is going to ultimately pay off. That's the same attitude that we have. When we step forward to help, particularly with dollars, we want to know that investment is paying off, because the money we use is taxpayer money, right? It's your money. So when we're investing, we really want to know that the plan is solid. So again, those are just some of the kinds of questions you need to be thinking about, you need to be asking yourself about, you need to be sort of mulling over in your head. I'm so happy to see our friend Dave here from the insurance department. He was telling me before we started that it hasn't been all that long that they've actually had some information available for small businesses. But that's a key question for folks. how do we ensure what we're doing? It's great to see our friends from the bank here because, the bankers really help us because they invest in the programs that we have. And obviously our folks from the Small Business Development Center and the One Stop Shop. So really what I would like you to do today is just start thinking about the kinds of questions you should be asking yourself, the kinds of information that you would want answered if somebody came to you and said, hey, I want to open a small business, or hey, there's an empty building in my town and I want to put something there, or hey, my buddies like to drink beer, so you think we can open a brewery? Okay, so that is really what my message for you is here today. As you can tell, I didn't need a PowerPoint to deliver that message. I do have to run to another appointment, but I'm happy to take a couple of questions in advance. I know there'll be a Q&A at the end, but I'm certainly happy to take a couple of questions before I have to head out, because I know the guys and ladies in the room are going to be able to answer everything you have later. Yes, go ahead. I beg your pardon? Well, we have, one of our key programs that we have for nonprofits is the Neighborhood Assistance Program. The state does not directly give money to nonprofits, but what we do is provide tax credits, thanks to the generosity of Rep. Dowling and his colleagues in the House and his colleagues in the Senate. We have a $19 million tax credit program. And so if nonprofits have projects, they find a corporate funder, such as Somerset Trust, who invests in your project, and then we provide a tax credit. I actually think you do a little bit with our NAP program. I think you support a couple of projects. So that's what we do for nonprofits, but it's interesting that you ask about nonprofits, because one of the issues we've had is that nonprofits don't need to, they're not operated as a business, but they do need to operate with a bottom line. And so we've really spent a lot of time over the past year and a half trying to educate nonprofits about finding ways to operate like a business so that they have a sustainability factor. There's sort of not a magic pot of money at the state. I think the rep can attest to that. We know there's a lot of need out there. There is a lot of need, and we understand that, but there's just not a magic pot, right? The budget is what the budget is. It has a certain number of dollars in it, and eventually we spend those dollars. So we need nonprofits to really start to look at how they operate, finding ways to sustain themselves. That was an easy one. Anybody else? Okay, who's going to open a brewery? You look like a guy who wants to open a brewery. No? No, okay. So, well, listen, thank you, everybody. I've left some of my cards on the table with my colleague over here. Again, I'm the Regional Director for the state's Department of Community and Economic Development. My office is based in downtown Pittsburgh, but my colleagues and I travel all across the 12 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania. And so if you're working on something related to your business, related to your community, related to your nonprofits, feel free to give me a call, and we'll get you connected with the right folks. Representative, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. As Jonna said, there is information on the table, and her colleague will be here afterwards if you have any additional questions. Before we go on to our next speaker, lunch is going to be served. We will have the staff direct you through the buffet for those of you in the room. For those of you on the live stream, we are just making our plates, and then we're going to have a working lunch today, so it won't take too long for everyone to get their plates. Before we do go to lunch, there were just a couple statistics that as we were putting today together, we wanted to share with you. In Pennsylvania, there are 999,591 small businesses. For those of you who may be curious, a small business by that definition is any business with 500 or fewer employees. Small businesses produce 16 times more patents per employee than large patenting firms. Small businesses pay 42.9% of the total U.S. private payroll. Small firms make up 98.2% of our state's employers, and small businesses employ 2.4 million workers and account for 47.3% of the private sector labor force. When I'm out and speaking, especially at small business events or at ribbon cuttings, I always am sure to note that the backbone of our Commonwealth here is our small businesses. And while we welcome the large businesses that come into the Commonwealth and do business here, it's really our mom and pop stores, our small producers, and our small businesses that are the backbone of the Commonwealth. I am going to introduce our next speaker to keep things moving today. And our next speaker is Donald Polygon. He goes as DJ, so we welcome DJ from the Department of Community and Economic Development, again, DCED. Business one-stop shop. He is an economic development analyst. Donald goes by DJ, as I said. He worked with the state of Pennsylvania for over 4 years with the PA Department of Revenue, and now the Department of Community and Economic Development in the business one-stop shop. He has a master's degree in business from Lebanon Valley College, and he enjoys helping people and businesses achieve their goals. Put your hands together for DJ, who does have a slideshow here to go with us today. DJ?
All right, so my introduction wasn't as long as John's. I haven't been at it quite as long. So yeah, again, my name is DJ. Thanks for having me, everybody. Representative. I'm with the PA Business One Stop Shop. So if you can, raise your forks. I was going to say hands, but since we're eating, who all has a business currently here? Raise the hands. Okay. What about who's here that wants to start a business, who hasn't quite got around to it yet? Okay. What about any experiences working with the government? Do we have anybody who's ever tried to call, get information, look online? How did that experience work out for you guys? Not well? Yeah, that's what I hear a lot. So what about the one-stop shop? Has anybody ever heard of the one-stop shop? No? I'm sure some of our partners have. And that's normal. I mean, our shop has only been around since March, but before that, we were in a different. We were the small business. We were small champions, the Business Champions Network, and the Entrepreneurial Assistance Network. So, before that, we do have some experience working with businesses. So, our mission, I have on the board. I'm not going to read it, but you can see what it is. If you do want to start a business, or if you have a business, we are here for you. We can do a wide range of things. It's just one thing that we do. To plan. People who want to start a business, for planning, if you call in, you can email. We help you with business planning. So if you're not sure where to start, you start with planning. We have a business plan template on our website that you can look at and use as you go through your business plan. We also have an entrepreneurial's guide that will also walk you through starting a business in Pennsylvania, from picking a business structure to what taxes you have to worry about. Lots of different things in the entrepreneur's guide that's on our website. So if you haven't thought about it yet, some of the things that you must think of before you start your business, again, is naming your business. That's one of the things that people take for granted. To name your business, if you're going to be using your legal name your name, you don't have to register what's called a fictitious name. But if you are going to be going by a business or by a name other than your legal name, you would have to register for a fictitious name. And through our website, we do have links to the Department of State where you would do that. Choosing a business structure, that's another one of the things that we get questions about a lot. People aren't quite sure what business structure is right for them. So we can walk you through, the particular things you have to think about when you want to figure out what business structure. I mean, most businesses can start as a startup, can start as a sole proprietorship, depending on what you want to do, and then down the road you can convert to an LLC or a corporation or whatever the business structure that you think is right for you. Getting business advice. So we partner with a lot of different regional partners in Pennsylvania. We have the SBDC here. We have some chambers of commerce here. The FAPEN Economic Development Council. They are one of our partners as well. And we point you guys to them. So if you call us or you email us and we can't really help you over the phone or on email, we will point you to someone where you can actually sit with somebody in person or meet with someone face to face that can help you out. So once you get your plan down, you create your business plan, then what we can help you out with from there is registering. And this is kind of where it gets very difficult dealing with different departments in Pennsylvania. As you can see, I have a lot of different departments listed up there. And to start a business in PA, you really have to deal with every single one, which can get very tedious. You may call one department thinking you're speaking to another department. They may give you a number telling you you're going somewhere, but you may end up somewhere totally different. You get every number you call, you'll get met with a menu tree that you have to select, the button and try to get to someone to speak to. So at DCED, we have the menu, but when you select a button, you get to someone to speak to. It doesn't send you in circles. But obtaining an EIN, so that's a federal thing. We don't do that at the state. Where you would go to get an EIN is the IRS. And it's very easy, actually, to do this stuff online. If you go to irs.gov, you can get an EIN in like 10 minutes. You just fill out a form and submit it online. Registering with the Department of State, this is where you would register your business structure. So if you wanted to register an LLC or a partnership or a corporation, the Department of State is who you would go through. You can call us. We'll tell you to go through the Department of State, point you to where you can register online and submit the paperwork online. The Department of State also has other boards and commissions for specialty things, like if you're in the medical field or a lawyer or selling real estate, you have to get specifically licensed for that kind of stuff. Registering with the Department of Revenue. So I don't know if anyone's who's heard of the PA 100? Okay. It's some feel that way, and I don't blame them. It's a long form. So the PA 100 is a form that you would fill out if you were selling something and you wanted to register for a sales tax license, or if you have employees and you want to issue W-2s, you need to register with the state to withhold state income tax. You also need to report workers' compensation and unemployment compensation, and that's with labor and industry. And this is all handled within the PA 100 form. So it's one form that you fill out. You can do it online and submit it. We don't typically walk you through the form from step 1 to step 18 because we really want you to think about what you're filling out, the information that you're putting on the form, because it'll really make you force you to think about your business if you haven't yet thought far enough to be filling out the form. Other state agencies, I threw that on there because DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, if you're doing stuff with radon or lead paint, the PennDOT, if you want to be a common carrier, like a trucking company or a taxi or a limousine service, the AG, the Attorney General, if you want to be a home improvement contractor, you have to register with the Attorney General's office. You want to telemarket, if you want to call people and try to sell them something, you have to register with the AG. Local registration and zoning. So this is another big thing that we have that people don't typically think about. You'll think about federal, you'll think about state, but not local. At the local level, there's over 2,500 municipalities in Pennsylvania. And if you think about it, say you're a contractor and you're doing work in many different municipalities, you're going to have to register with each municipality that requires it to be able to do business in that locality. Now, the easiest way to find information about local taxes is Google. I use Google all the time. If you're not familiar with Google, get familiar with Google. Search, read. You can't know enough about business stuff. So, I mean, if you're not familiar with something, if you don't know a concept, if you're going through the PA 100, or if you're doing a business plan and you come across a term that you don't know or you're not familiar with, Google it. You'll get tons and tons and tons of stuff to read. Some stuff may contradict something that you've read before, and you'll have to research that even more, or you can call us and we can help you through it. So federal, state, and local. And where we specialize is at the state, but the federal, is easy. That's one thing. And local, again, all you do is Google it, find your local website, and from there you can learn. Typically I go to the forms page on the local websites to see what kind of forms they have. If they have a business license registration form, then you'll know right away. So moving on to businesses that are already operating. So say you're operating for a while, you're just a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, and now you want to hire employees. So your business is kind of expanding a little bit. Well, to hire an employee, again, I've talked about it a little bit, the PA 100, you would register to withhold state income tax. You would also have to register to withhold federal and Social Security taxes, Medicare taxes, and also local taxes. So we walk you through that process. Tax assistance, I say that, but revenue is there. I've worked at revenue for a while, so I can help you out with that kind of stuff. But there's two other individuals in our office who answer calls and emails, and they don't have as much tax experience as I do, where we can tell you what forms to fill out. We can't really provide in-depth technical analysis of tax situations. So say you're selling something, you're providing a service, and you want to know whether that service is sales taxable. I can answer those questions, but the other two in our office will typically come to me if they get questions like that. If you are closing your business, which is another difficult endeavor in Pennsylvania because there's a lot of forms and departments that you have to work with to do that, then we can point you in the right direction, let you know what forms you need to fill out, and go from there. So the next thing is if you want to grow, and this is typically funding. This is one of the main questions that we get. John has talked about the individual who calls in and wants to start a brewery, and they don't know where to start. Well, we get those calls, but they're asking about funding already. Before they even start a business plan, before they even know really what they want to do, they're asking us what kind of funding is out there for them. So not a lot for startups, to be honest. But if we can get you there if you're already an established business, and you are looking to a project that you have where you're going to be creating jobs in Pennsylvania, then we can point you in the direction towards funding programs. We do have some programs at DCED. The Business Opportunities Fund is one. For businesses that aren't as established. It's not centered around creating jobs. So it's just small, low interest loan programs. But I have all our other partners up there listed. We can point you towards, if you call in and again, we can't help you with something or you need more personalized, longer assistance, we point you towards those partners that we have. Again, listed up there, the SBDCs, the SBA is the Small Business Administration is through the federal, the Small Business Development Centers, they're through the state, private, third party, but they partner with us. We have PA Site Search and the Governor's Action Team. So the Site Search is a very good tool on our website if you are attempting to find a location to move to, and you have certain criteria that they need to meet, like square footage, or automation, or being close to ports and highways and things like that. You can go to this website and actually use that criteria to find factories or facilities that can help you with those things. The Governor's Action Team, they are there to help businesses who are either going to be doing projects in PA on a larger scale. So typically $100,000 projects or more, creating at least 10 jobs, things like that. So if you have a project like that in mind, you can contact our Governor's Action Team, and what they'll do is they'll package an incentive package with different programs and credits that you may qualify for. So registering as a small diverse business, the reason why I put that up there is a lot of times once you get an established business, they want to start contracting with the state, or they want to start federal contracting. Well, there's a whole process that you have to go through to contract with the state. So the Department of General Services is who runs this process. You would go to their website. You would first have to register as a PA vendor. You would get a PA vendor number, then you would register as a small business. So you self-certify. You have to actually submit federal tax returns to prove that you're a small business. And then from there, what you would do, say, if you're a woman-owned business or a minority-owned business or veteran-owned, LGBTQ-owned business, disabled business, then what you can do is also register as a small diverse business, which gives you it puts you before other businesses when it comes to government contracting. So the state has to set aside a certain amount of projects to provide to small diverse businesses. So that is something I encourage you to look into if you fall under one of those categories. To qualify or to register, to fill out an application for this funding, you would go to the DCED website, dced.pa.gov, and you would access the single application, and you would fill out that, and that's for every program that DCED offers. So you'll check a couple boxes, it'll tell you what programs you may qualify for, and you'll submit an application, and it is for all the programs that you may qualify for as a program. So you don't have to kind of pick and choose which programs you're going to be applying for. So now, Amanda, if you can please click on that. I'm just going to take you to our website, which is, again, you can see there, www.business.pa.gov. Sure. Yeah, our website, when they first released this back in March, it might have been before March, February is probably when it was up and running, but it was very basic. They had a lot of good information on there, but over time, over the past few months, they have been adding more and more information and a lot more things that the website can do. There's plenty of links that'll take you through every process. It looks like we're having a little bit of difficulty getting the website up. Control. Or just go to the browser and go to business.pa.gov. That works too. Oh, there it is. All right, so this is what you'll be, when you get to our website, this is what you'll be looking at. If you can scroll down a little bit, Amanda. So you'll see the links on the side, naming your business. This is so these are the trending links. These are what people are looking at mostly on our website. And you'll see naming your businesses first, followed by the registration process. Taxes are a big thing. The local earned income tax, that's the one thing we get a lot of questions about. If you can scroll up and to the left where it says plan, if you can click on that, the light bulb, and then scroll down. So this is where you'll start with planning. You'll see writing a business plan. If you click on that for me, please, Amanda. It gives you the business plan template. You can click on that, and then it'll bring it up as a PDF, and you can fill in information. And then, so naming your business, it talks about the fictitious name versus legal name. Choosing a business structure. Again, I've gone through all this stuff, so I just kind of want to give you what it looks like. You'll see we list all the different structures that you can have. We give a basic, summary of what those structures are, and then what requirements are for each one. And then go back up for me. Yeah, click on getting business advice. How about that? So finding a business mentor, again, that's through SCORE. So what SCORE is they will pair you with a retired business executive who can sit with you one-on-one. You can, it's totally up to you and the individual to create a schedule or, plan meetings, and they can help you out really with anything you need. So that's what the mentor is, business workshops and one-on-one counseling. That's through the SBDC. They offer a lot of webinars, so if you're not sure where to start, and you don't really want to meet with someone yet, I would definitely go there and take and look at their webinars about starting a business, and a lot of good information on there, not just for starting a business. The federal SBA, I've mentioned them. They specialize a lot in the diverse businesses, so women-owned, veteran-owned, disability-owned, LGBTQ, those kind of things. So if you can scroll back up for me, Amanda, and click on register. And then scroll down. So yeah, so this is, again, I'm not going to go through it like I did the last one, but registering with PA, that's L&I, revenue, all the different ones I mentioned, local registrations, permits, and zoning. Again, that deals with the local earned income tax, the local services tax, and local business licenses. Special registrations, again, I think the only thing they have on there right now is home improvement contractors. Operate for me, please. The top. So this one, as I mentioned, is if you're hiring workers, it walks you through the process. Believe it or not, you actually have to report to PA every time you hire a new worker, and it's for child support purposes, spousal support, things like that. So when you hire someone, you have to report to them in case they have to pay child support. They can, if they're not paying it, they'll actually make you dock their pay. State taxes before you close your business. So those are just other things. The state taxes, again, employer withholding, sales tax. Before you close your business, again, it walks you through the process. And then finally, if you can just click on grow for me, and then I'll be done. Up at the top there, next to operate. Thank you. And so this, if you click on finding business experts near you, it takes you back to the finding the advice. So SCORE, the prep partners, the SBDC, the SBA. Finding the right fit. What is that one? Click on that one for me, please, Amanda. Okay, so that's the PA site search and the governor's action team. Becoming a government supplier, again, that's through DGS. The small diverse business, we just give you a few links to different resources that you can use. State funding, that takes you to our program finder and the single application, and then the beginning business advice, again, that takes you to SCORE. So that's our website, and so I would highly encourage you to go to our website, go through it. Everything that we talk to you about when you call our phone, when you call in or email in, is on our website typically. So if you don't want to talk to someone, I encourage you to call in and talk to us, but if you don't, you can definitely get the information from our website. If you see something you're not sure about, you can always call in or email us, and we can help you out. So that's really about all I had today. I'm glad that I was able to come, and I hope you guys take advantage of the services that our office provides. Feel free to call again, email me, email our office. It's me again. The other two people in our office are Tracy and Talia, so they're very knowledgeable and can help you out just like I can. So thank you.
Thank you, DJ, for being with us today and for sharing that information. DJ will be here for a while following our presentation. If you have any questions, please see him in person today. Our next speaker is someone that I meet with on a regular basis in Harrisburg. Kevin Shrivers with the National Federation of Independent Businesses. He's the Executive State Director. Kevin serves as NFIB's chief Pennsylvania lobbyist and leads the organization's grassroots and political activities. Before joining NFIB, Kevin was the deputy press secretary for Pennsylvania Governors Tom Ridge and Mark Schweiker. He previously served as press secretary in the Pennsylvania Department of State and worked in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Kevin holds a bachelor's degree from Allegheny College in Meadville, Crawford County. He, as I said, is a great source of information for me as we deal with legislation that affects small businesses throughout PA. And I'd ask that you put your hands together for Kevin and as we welcome him up to the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Really appreciate the invitation of Representative Dowling to break bread with you today and to talk about entrepreneurship and small business in Pennsylvania. My organization here in Pennsylvania, we represent 14,000 small and independent businesses, and the common denominator for our members is that they're not publicly traded companies, and we also don't allow nonprofits or charitable organizations within our membership. So ours is a membership exclusively of closely held or family-owned business owners. And a typical NFIB has about 5 or fewer employees, and the gross sales of our members typically is about $500,000 with the profit, the take-home of those members, about $50,000 to $60,000. So literally a 1% margin, which is very typical, I think, of small businesses, not only in Pennsylvania but across America. And I have a chance, I deliver about 70 of these types of speeches throughout the state every year and have the chance to take on business tours and meet with entrepreneurs and our members. And I recall a conversation with a small business owner who was at the end of his rope. Before he got into business, he'd been suffering with anxiety and depression and paranoia, and his therapist recommended to him what he ought to do is start a small business. And, for the entrepreneurs in the room, I mean, that's really, malpractice, I think. The idea, and especially I thought DJ with the Department of Community and Economic Development did a really great job with his presentation, but, and no offense to DJ, but it was almost sort of mind-numbing, the rules, requirements, and the steps that you need to go through to start a small business. And, I remember a video that I saw when I was in high school about, you're seizing your future and about starting your own business, and the video talked about how if you're a small business owner, you could be your own boss, you make your own hours, you make your own money. And I'd be curious to show of hands of any of the entrepreneurs in the room if that actually really is how it worked. For example, they did a study in Philadelphia, how much it costs and the steps that you need to go to hang a sign out in front of your business. And it was like $50,000 to hang the sign, to make and hang the sign, but it was another $500,000 to $700,000 to get all the permits, the engineering, the legal work, and all of the clearances that went along just to hang the sign. There was a Dunkin' Donuts. I'll never forget walking past this conversation in Harrisburg. The Dunkin' Donuts in downtown Harrisburg had gone through this major refurbishment, and they took down the sign, and they remodeled the facility, and it was beautiful. And I literally was walking down the street when they were hanging the sign, and the local government official was walking by, and they said, "What are you doing?" They said, the owner was so proud. They're like, we're finally done. We're putting up the sign. And he said, "You can't do that." "What do you mean you can't do that? Do you have a permit to hang the sign?" And he said, "It's our sign." And he said, "No, it's not that easy." And so they literally had to go back through the process to hang the sign. That's why, if you ever notice, if you walk into your downtown and you see businesses that have signs that are out there just kind of on an easel announcing the business, it's because the cost of putting the sign together is so extreme. And that's just the sign. It's not any of the other issues. And so I wanted to talk to you today not to make you angry or frustrated and say, "Oh my God," but I wanted to talk to you. All of the other speakers here today are talking about business structure. How to properly organize your business, what are the, certifications and the clearances that you need. You have financial institutions to talk about access to capital. You have workforce people here to talk to you about your workforce needs, training, recruitment resources, etc. But one of the most important pieces to your business plan needs to be advocacy. And there was a trial lawyer I had met at the state capitol one time. There was a big battle on an issue. And, he confided in me. He said, "You know what? I write out my dues check to my association the same day I pay the light bill, Kevin." He said, "Because you know what? It's a cost of doing business." And I think back, at that moment, I thought back to one of my favorite Jerry Seinfeld quotes, the comedian who was in that TV sitcom called Seinfeld. And Jerry had a great quote, and it was, "Lawyers are the only ones that read the top of a game box." And you're like, wow. I mean, there's so much said there in such a small sentence. But it is so true, right? That the people who win the game often are the ones that know how the rules of the game what they mean, how they're written, but more importantly, if you're involved in writing the rules, the chances of you actually succeeding or winning that game are going to be that much better than somebody that just walks up to the board table and says, all right, count me in. And too often entrepreneurs think about the great service that they're providing. And let's face it, I mean, we talk about how small business people are the lifeblood in our communities. And for many of them, you know, they're starting their businesses because they found something that was missing in their community, and they thought, man, I have a service that I can provide, and I know I can do something that will contribute to make my community better. And for many small businesses, the median amount that they use to start a business is about $18,000, and I guarantee you can't get a loan for 18 grand. So most of these businesses are started by that owner, that entrepreneur, maxing out their credit card, or maybe borrowing that money or from family or friends, or maybe even breaking into their own retirement or breaking into their children's education fund to start that business. But they never think to the fact that when I'm building this little community business, that I need to pay attention to what's going on in Harrisburg and in Washington, D.C., because all of the rules that DJ outlined to you, those were written by other people. You know what I mean? If you're sitting here at the table today thinking, I want to start a business, and you saw all of the rules that were listed on that screen, guess what? They were written by somebody else. And so when you're going through that checklist and you're going, man, that was really dumb, you know, you can think to yourself, boy, you really ought to get involved in the process, because it is the most important thing you can do for the survival of your business, even before that first customer walks in the door. You really need to get involved in how the rules of the game are played, and that's what an organization like mine does every day in Harrisburg and in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. NFIB is 75 years old, and our job is to represent the voices of small and independent businesses. We were founded by a fellow named Wilson Harder back in 1943, and Wilson always wanted to take over his dad's business. His dad was based somewhere in the middle United States, and he didn't have the opportunity to do that. I mean, as circumstances happened, his dad was forced to liquidate the business and sell it to somebody else, and so Wilson ultimately became a salesman and ultimately started his own business, but it wasn't taking on that family tradition. And, you know, he always was sore about that. One of the things that he noted, you know, this was in World War II, but Wilson remembered as a young boy when our servicemen were returning from the battlefields of Europe after World War I, they were essentially relegated to selling apples from street carts, because there really was no economic development policy of our nation at that time, believe it or not, that fostered entrepreneurship and small business. You flash forward to the end of World War II, 1942, 1943, middle of the war. You had a lot of servicemen and women returning from the battlefields in Europe and in the Pacific. Well, what are they going to do? And again, at that time, even at that time, America didn't have an economic development policy that fostered entrepreneurship and small business. Quite honestly, the only business voice that we heard in our nation's capital at the time were the big businesses. And, you know, with the organizations in Washington at that day, they operated under that 80-20 rule, where the 20% of the wealthiest corporations in America dictated the policy for the rest of the 80%. And if you can imagine, even in 1943, America was still, Pennsylvania as well, an agrarian, small business, Main Street type economies, but there were big steel, big coal, big oil, and a lot of these conglomerates were really running the show in terms of the policy. So they started the National Federation of Small Business. Wilson later turned that into the National Federation of Independent Business, and the idea was to give a seat at the table to small businesses during the legislative rulemaking process. And so my organization created a methodology to establish policy, and that was to ask our members. And so we send out a ballot every year, ever since 1943, to our members, and we ask them what they think about emerging business issues. And we provide pro and con statements and a policy question, and we let them decide. And we only get involved in issues when there is the consensus of our members on those issues. And so our threshold typically is that we don't get involved to defeat legislation or to support legislation unless at least 70% of our members want us to get involved to defeat or to advance a piece of legislation. And for me, as a registered lobbyist, and you have to be registered to advocate in Harrisburg, it's liberating to be able to walk up onto Capitol Hill and to carry a mandate from your members about the views on the issues that they care most about. Because at the end of the day, my job is really just to count the votes and report to our members in a voting record how those lawmakers voted. But it gives me a chance when I walk into a lawmaker's office to say, 70% of or more of the small business people in your area actually believe one way or another. And that usually is a great way, a lead to start the conversation. And that's what I want to encourage all of you to do. All of you here should be thankful, and make sure you take the time to reach out to Representative Dowling and thank him for what he's doing here today, because this is the starting point of a conversation. Please don't walk out of this room and say that was a really great lunch and there was a lot of really great information, but then don't follow up on it. Obviously, you're going to network with the people that you've met in the room here, but make sure you keep that connection and network in the same way with your state representative, because he is an employee for your organization like any other of the employees in your organization, like any other of these business advocates who can be used. They have resources that can be used as tools for your business. Representative Dowling is an extremely bright, charismatic, energetic young lawmaker in Harrisburg. And I guarantee you he would go to all your businesses. I doubt he would know how to do all of the tasks in all of your businesses. But you know what? Because you are an employer in his district, he cares enough to learn about the kinds of businesses that you run, the types of tasks that you have, and the concerns about legislation and regulations in Harrisburg and how they affect your business. And that is what a true advocate really does. And so that's why this needs to be the start of that conversation. Invite the representative out to your business. Show him your factory floor. Give him a chance to meet with your workers. Talk about the issues that matter to your business, its bottom line, and your employees. So that way, when legislation runs on the floor or in committee in Harrisburg, that's going to be fresh in the representative's mind, and he's going to have someone to call back home who he can fall on for the knowledge, the expertise, and the information that he needs to be an informed advocate on behalf of all of you in the State House in Harrisburg. And something else to consider in that conversation, don't only just think about the aspects of legislation and how they affect the business itself. Remember to think about your employees in that conversation as well. Include them in the policy conversation, because they have as much at stake in the success of your business as you do. And so if there is legislation that would harm your employees or harm your business, your employees need to know that as well. And they need to be armed with the same information and tools and understanding to be able to weigh in as well on those as well. So enjoy yourselves. This is a fantastic presentation today. There's lots of really great information on business structure, but don't forget the advocacy portion of your small business is as important to the lifeblood of that company as any of the other pieces are. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin, for being with us today. If you don't know Kevin or you haven't had a chance to meet him, I would suggest that you take a moment to do so before he has to run out today. NFIB, as I said in his introduction, does a lot to be an advocate for small businesses. One of the things that Kevin did mention, and I just wanted to follow up with that, was about coming out and visiting your businesses. And one of our last speakers for the day, coming up in just a little while, is going to be Steve Scheidel with Ohio Pal Prints. And early on in my legislative career, I went out to visit Ohio Pal Prints. I will tell you, I had no idea the size or magnitude of their business. I'm excited to hear from him today. But since we've visited with Steve at his business, we've probably been out to visit about 20 more businesses within the area. Whether we have our film crew with us producing one of our episodes of Legislative Report, which we like to show off businesses to our community on, or if it's just me and a staff member or just me alone, I love to visit your businesses, to meet your employees, and it really helps me understand and make decisions. Just a quick aside from that before I introduce our next speaker. It wasn't Steve's business, although I know they do a lot of shipping out of the area that they're in. Another local business, which is located on Route 43, in the Fairchance Industrial Park, shared with me some of the pros and cons of the way we charge for our toll roads in Pennsylvania, and shared that they could do a business expansion if we could just control tolls a little better. I had thought of many other aspects of this business before. I had never thought of the vast amount of shipping that they do and how that's one of their core costs, and that we are suffering with less jobs in this area because of the price that we have to pay to travel up a short stretch of Route 43. So that's just a quick aside on how a visit to a business can kind of change my mindset or educate me on what your needs are within our local community. Our next speaker is coming to us from the Pennsylvania Insurance Department. He is the consumer liaison, David Bono, is that correct? Okay, David Bono has been serving the insurance industry since 1999. The Penn State graduate began working with the Pennsylvania Insurance Department in 2015 as the department's consumer liaison. In this role, David ensures the department is reaching consumers and providing assistance to those navigating the complex world of insurance. He supports the department's initiatives to keep the state's insurance market competitive while focusing on helping consumers learn and understand their rights and responsibilities. What insurance products are options and are available to them, and to provide a place for consumers to get answers to their questions. Please join me in welcoming David, our consumer liaison from the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, to the podium. Thanks, David.
All right, how is everybody doing? Good, yep, terrific. All right, so I do have a slideshow because I realize that I'm the insurance guy. And I do know that 26% of people would prefer to clean a toilet than learn about insurance. And then I'm also doing this after lunch, which means I brought stuff to hand out to maybe get some of you guys to like talk with me. Is that cool? Can we do that? All right, so you're gonna have to trust that what I have in the box is cool. All right, so I'm gonna put this over here. Wait for the slideshow to pop up. But while we wait, I'm going to show you what's in the box because it might make you want to talk more. It's Hershey bars. I know. The insurance guy brought candy. That's right. Can everybody hear me if I happen to be standing away from the podium? Am I loud enough? All right, cool. Then I have to use the clicker. And I'll probably go the wrong way, but I'll do my best. So on behalf of Commissioner Altman and Governor Wolf, thank you so much for having the Pennsylvania Insurance Department here, Representative Dowling. We really do appreciate it. So before the meeting today, who actually has heard of the Pennsylvania Insurance Department? And be honest.
No.
3 people. Fantastic. Because usually it's like 2 people. So what do you think that we do? What do you think the insurance department does? I'll give you a hint. I am from Harrisburg. I drove up this morning. So what do you think we do?
Force us to have insurance.
Force you to have insurance. It depends. It depends. If we're talking auto insurance, yeah, that's the law. You have to have auto insurance, but not necessarily all. You had started to whisper something.
I said insure businesses.
Yeah, believe it or not, of all the things that we do not sell insurance. We're actually the regulators of insurance. So, pop quiz, candy bars involved. What year do you think the Pennsylvania Insurance Department started?
1972.
1972 is a guess. What else?
1800.
1800. Ooh. What, any other guesses?
I'm going to take a guess and say 1980.
No, 1982. Actually, believe it or not, 1873. So we are older. You guess. I'm going to give you candy bar.
He guessed without point
I'm going to give him candy bar too.
I was only off 100 years.
You got close. You got close. So, 1873, which means we are older than the Pennsylvania State Police. We're probably older than DCED, I'm gonna guess. Is that a pretty fair guess? You're welcome. So, and as the representative had mentioned, our mission is to promote a regulatory environment that encourages a competitive marketplace, all right? So, we actually regulate the 5th largest insurance market in the country and the 14th largest in the world. We provide a fair regulatory environment that encourages insurance companies to conduct business here in Pennsylvania. We provide safeguards related to solicitation and sales of insurance products. So, as you hear about free lunches and stuff like that, if something feels weird and it's insurance related, you can reach out to us. We review and approve insurance language and rates. We license insurance companies and agents. So if someone is selling here, we license them. So what does that mean? It means we oversee approximately 1,700 insurance companies. We currently license about 260,000 producers. We review 12,000 rate and policy forms a year. We handle 250,000 consumer and producer interventions. And we handled 12,329 complaints last year and answered 46,993 phone calls. And we actually got $98 million in restitution for Pennsylvanians. Now, the scary thing about that is only 3 people raised their hands. And now, I want to believe that the insurance companies are always doing the right things, and I'm sure they are always trying to, but there are a lot more folks, now that you know that we exist, that can reach out if you have a problem. So don't be afraid to call us. All right, so why do you buy insurance? You said earlier, because you're forced to. You actually buy insurance because you never plan on being involved in a car accident or hurting yourself or having a fire. And insurance actually protects you against risk. So when you buy insurance and the amount that you decide to buy, you're kind of thinking through the risk and how much risk you're willing to assume. Some people spend a little bit less to have lower limits, and some people are like, hey, I want to make sure I'm protecting myself right, and then have higher limits. So, as you're thinking through insurance, do you have money to rebuild your house or your business? So you have to think about those things. Do you have money to buy a new car if it's in an accident? And to pay hospital bills. So it protects you against financial loss. So today, I was mentioning earlier that, one of my roles, or what was mentioned earlier, one of my roles is to actually educate folks about insurance. And for the longest time, being regulators, we kind of stayed in our spot and didn't really venture out too far. But now we're starting to really create information and provide information for folks because we realize that people need us. So today we're going to discuss using your personal auto for business. Does anybody do that? Okay. We're going to discuss using your home. Does anybody do that? And we're going to review some frequently asked questions about workers' compensation and providing health insurance for your employees. Don't worry, I know it's 4 bullets, but I promise it's not long because I don't want anybody falling asleep. All right, so does my personal auto insurance cover me when I'm using it for business? Many personal auto policies actually do not cover that. So you want to be very careful. All right, in some policies, it will go off the weight of a vehicle. So, if your vehicle weighs more than 15,000 pounds, well, it doesn't qualify as an auto. If it doesn't qualify as an auto, it may not meet the definition on the policy, then it wouldn't be covered. Some policies don't cover things like box trucks, separate cabs. Now, we're talking personal auto. You can buy commercial auto policies. We're talking that you use your personal auto. A lot of policies, and haven't seen one that doesn't exclude it, is something called livery, which is the delivery of people. Think Uber, Lyft. Your personal auto policy actually doesn't cover that kind of stuff. Or delivery. That's like pizzas or newspapers or mail. So those exclusions exist, and a lot of people are like, why? Why wouldn't it be covered by a personal auto policy? It wouldn't be covered because the risk is higher. When you're using it for business, you have potential increase in liability. You're on the road more often, which makes you drive a lot more. You have the product in the vehicle, a lot more risk. Now, what we've been talking about though is your personal auto policy. There are commercial policies out there that you can purchase for your automobile. So, if you use your 2004 Honda Accord for your business, that's okay. Just make sure you talk to your agent or insurance company and let them know, hey, I'm using this for business. Does my policy cover everything? So just be sure to have that conversation. If they say, yeah, you're fine, don't worry, you don't use it for that type of exclusion, that's great. But if they say, oh, that makes me nervous, you might not be covered properly, then they can get you the right policy for you. Does that make sense? All right. Oh, another pop quiz. Forgot I put it in there. I gave it away. Who wants candy? So, who founded America's oldest continuously active insurance company? Believe it or not, it is Ben Franklin, and it is still active today. I don't think there's anything that Ben Franklin didn't do if you study history. So, now anybody use their home for business? Okay. So, does my homeowners cover my home-based business? Yeah, possibly no. So your homeowner's insurance alone may not provide enough coverage for your business, okay? So many homeowners policies only cover up to $2,500 for damages for business property, and your homeowner's policies do not cover if somebody gets hurt. So those are things to be thinking about if you're using your home. You can purchase additional coverage to protect yourself. So here are some questions that you should ask. Do you have equipment or business inventory at your home? Do customers visit your home? Why would we care if customers visit your home? Why would you care about that? Go ahead.
Basically, in case there's a lawsuit or somebody decides to sue.
That's right. They could slip, they could fall, somebody could get hurt, right? Do you have items delivered to your home? Why would you care about that? Some mysterious stuff, right? Yeah, some mysterious stuff. So, you want to be thinking through this as you're using your home because your regular homeowner's policy may not cover. Would you lose income if your home is damaged by fire or storm? Do you have employees that work on your property? Why would you care about that? Somebody get hurt, right? Do you keep customer records on your computer or on file? Cyber protection. And do you have employees that drive a vehicle for business? We talked about that, making sure you have the right policy. I had a friend that had a pizza business, and he called me and said, hey, I'm going to have my guys deliver. And I was like, they may not be covered if they deliver. So he went and purchased the policy to protect them if they were using their vehicle to drive. He was a good guy. Some people don't do it, but he was a good guy. It cost him a little bit of money. It's not always cheap. All right, so we'll slide on to some frequently asked questions about workers' compensation. So the first two items that we went over, auto and homeowners, the reason why I included them in our slideshow is because a lot of times we get complaints from consumers about how insurance companies are handling their claim. Those are two of the most common complaints that we get. And it's that folks didn't understand that their personal auto wouldn't cover an accident if they were driving delivering pizza, or they didn't know that if somebody fell on their property. So, we want to get out ahead of it to try to educate folks to get those right policies. Now, these are just some questions that we usually get when folks call. So I figured I'd put those in there because maybe I'll cover some questions that you have. So who's required to provide workers' compensation coverage? Generally, any employer who hires at least one employee, part-time or full-time, should purchase workers' compensation coverage. Where can I go if no insurance company will issue me a policy? If no insurance company will issue a policy, there's something called SWIFT, and that's the State Workers Insurance Fund. It is a last resort insurance, but you don't have to go with whoever you can shop around, and SWIFT can be one of the options if you want it to be. So I wanted to let you know about SWIFT. I had a question earlier today that asked, what if I have a business in this area and I drive and my guys work out of state too? Will workers' compensation cover that? What I would absolutely do is make sure that your agent or insurance company knows that you have folks that drive across the state line to help your customers. Some policies should be no issues at all, but you want to make sure that you go and understand what your policy says. There is no question that is a dumb question, especially with insurance. It can be hard to understand. That's why you have that agent or insurance company to help you. So an employee claims he or she was injured on the job. Will there be an increase in my premium? There will not be an increase on your premium for your current policy, but when it renews, there's a chance that it could affect your premium. Under what circumstances may the insurance company cancel or non-renew my policy? The insurance company can only cancel midstream. That's what canceling is, when they just stop it before it should. If you don't pay. You don't pay, they can cancel you. Now, there are no restrictions on non-renewal. That means when the policy starts up again, so say it's a year policy, renewal is when you renew. Make sense? There's nothing in regards that stops a policy from saying we're not going to renew you. Now, a company may not choose to not renew for discriminatory reasons. I have paid my premium for the term. Why am I receiving a bill for additional premium? Has anybody ever had that happen? The reason that that happens is because initially the payroll used to calculate the premium is an estimate, and then as time goes on, you provide more information, which gets you the appropriate amount that you should pay. Health insurance. So, many small business owners choose to purchase health insurance for their employees. In Pennsylvania, a small business is 50 or fewer full-time employees. Now, the reason why I want to stress 50 is because we heard earlier numbers like 500, right? So for small business in Pennsylvania, it's 50 or fewer. Your business could qualify for small business healthcare tax credit. That's up to worth 50% of your contribution. Now, there are some things that have to apply. Have fewer than 25 full-time employees. The average employee salary for your business is roughly $50,000 a year or less. You offer health insurance coverage to full-time employees through Shop Marketplace, which we'll talk about Shop the next slide. And you pay at least 50% of your full-time employees' premium costs. Now, I'm going through these slides pretty quick. If you're looking at it going, my God, I wish I had this information, I can't write fast enough, it is all on our webpage, so don't feel like you have to write it down. I'll give you the webpage at the end. And then, in regards to taxes and credit, that's all IRS. We don't get involved with taxes. So, what SHOP is the Small Business Health Options Marketplace, and that's through healthcare.gov. So, when we mentioned SHOP earlier, that's what that is. Now, if you're going to be looking at SHOP and looking at the marketplace to help your folks with health insurance, you're going to want to know whether you will offer one or multiple plans, how much your employee's premium, how much you can pay, or how much you will pay, whether you will cover dependents, whether you will offer dental benefits in addition to medical benefits, when employees can begin receiving coverage, whether you will cover or offer coverage to part-time employees. Those are things that, as you're working through deciding on health insurance and healthcare, those are the kind of things that you want to be thinking about. Once again, that's on our webpage. Whether you're purchasing insurance on your own or through SHOP, it's important that you consider how much you're able to contribute to your employees' premiums each month before selecting a plan or plans to offer. Now, every year, the insurance department does review the health insurance rates through the marketplace. That is the Affordable Care Act plans, Obamacare, whatever folks call it. Those are rates that are submitted to us. We review them, and we're the ones that say, yes, no, we need more information, we need to talk about this. So that is what one of our roles are. So we're going to recap. Small business owners who take steps to minimize risk, because that's what insurance is all about. It's all about the risk. So like risk, I actually did a risk assessment because I thought about throwing these candy bars. And I really did. I was going to throw them. But then I saw all the water. And I thought, I'm either A, going to toss you a candy bar, and you will jump for it and spill your water, or and you knock over the pitcher, And I just wanted to throw you a candy bar. So, make sure that your employees maintain good driving records. Keep thorough and up-to-date records of business inventory, accounts receivable, equipment purchases. The reason why that's important is because we have a brochure over there is after the storm for businesses. You want to make sure that if heaven forbid you have a claim, you're ready to rock and roll. You don't want to have to try to find, create records. You need to have those records ready for when it happens. Have employees keep wallets and other personal items in a secure place to keep business cash and other valuables in a safe. Makes sense, right? A lot of these things, as I say, we're gonna be like, that makes sense. Who doesn't do that? A lot of people. Maintain adequate lighting throughout your property. Keep electrical wiring and stairways, carpeting, flooring, elevators, escalators in good repair. Just like with your homeowner's insurance, if your insurance company comes out and looks and goes, whoa, that rail, that needs to be fixed. You actually do need to fix it. The insurance company can look at it and go, hey, we told you to fix that. We're not going to accept that kind of liability. We don't want you in here. So make sure you fix things to keep them in good repair. Install sprinkler systems or smoke alarms, fire alarms, and adequate security. Whether you sell products or services or both, keep only a small amount of cash on site. That makes sense, right? You know, I had somebody the other day I was presenting and they said, hey, what if I had $25,000 stolen? I'm like, is it real $25,000 or is it $25,000?
When you go to the bank, they can't cash a check for $25,000, which they don't have it, they're gonna have to order it. You need the money now, you can't wait 3 days.
If you have things like that, be sure that you keep them in a safe place, because you know, as money, cash is stolen, kind of harder to prove that you actually had $25,000 in cash. Be sure you and your employees know how to properly lift heavy objects and how to use all the necessary safety equipment. Finally, make sure your insurance agent is familiar with your business. I can't stress that enough. Be sure that you're open and honest with your insurance agent or your insurance company. Make sure they know what you have so that they can make sure that you are insuring your risk appropriately. All right, so I mentioned earlier we have a website. It is www.insurance.pa.gov. Now, unfortunately, ours is not as cool as yours yet. The DCED somehow has the really cool new format. We're still kind of new format. We're newer than it was, but we're slow. But it has a lot of information on there. We have videos on there. As you can see, we are also on Facebook. We do Facebook Live. Like last year, I got to burn a Christmas tree. It's pretty cool. And it was funny because I wanted to build a room with curtains and a sofa and everything, and I wanted to burn the tree then, but then my boss at the time, who was Commissioner Teresa Miller, now she's Secretary Miller at DHS, had told me, Dave, we're insurance. We don't do stuff like that. We're gonna get hurt. So I just got to burn it anyway. So why would I burn a Christmas tree? Show how quick it burns when you forget to water it. So we didn't water it for a couple months, and it burns. It burns. You know, but we also partner with the state police. We try to partner with the folks in the legislature. We do our best to partner because we are insurance. You know, we don't have the fantastic things the DCED does. You know, we're the ones that are kind of there to protect the fantastic things that all of you do. And we're kind of that thought in the background. So that's why I always want to work with state police and all of our agencies and anybody that wants to work with us, because, you know, you need insurance and you need somebody there to help explain it to you. And we are on Twitter, never tweeted. I have Twitter, thought about it once. It wasn't important enough for me to tweet about, so I didn't tweet. All right, that's me. That's why I didn't get the picture earlier. I do want to thank you so much, but and that one's touched up, so. I asked the guy if he put hair on it. He wouldn't. So, and there's my information. Feel free to call me anytime. And thank you all so much for having us here once again.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Dave. That was a lively presentation. I know how hard it is to make a presentation after lunchtime, and I know I was feeling that my lunch settling, like it was time for a nap, and you woke me up. So thank you very much. Coming up next, we're going to invite to the podium James Kunkel with St. Vincent College Small Business Development Center. He's the executive director. James' mission is to provide professional planning, technical assistance, education, and information to small and medium-sized businesses. The St. Vincent College, SBDC, focuses on strategic business planning and sound financial management that results in long-term economic benefits to their clients. Mr. Kunkel received his Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management from Penn State University. He earned his Master's in Business Administration from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. He has further honors from the University of South Carolina and the American Graduate School of International Management. Mr. Kunkel is also an adjunct professor at St. Vincent College, where he teaches 2 courses, Introductory to Entrepreneurship and Global Business Management. Please join me in welcoming to the podium James Kunkel.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Can everybody hear me all right if I follow David's lead and just sort of, I get a little animated when I speak, if I might hurt myself or something. So. Well, good afternoon. How's everybody doing, all right? Okay, excellent. Happy Friday. Prior to this morning, had anybody heard of a small business development center? You guys around the room don't get to, but 1, 2. Okay, let's start at the beginning. There are approximately 1,000 small business development centers located across the country. We are typically housed in colleges and universities. Our role is really to provide management consulting, technical assistance, business planning. When we heard from our first speaker, one of the first things she said, the question she asked, do you have a business plan? No. I don't know about you, but just sitting here, and this has been very, very worthwhile and informative, and I've been in this industry for close to 30 years. Seems to me like there's a lot to consider when you want to launch your own business. Seems to me there's even more to consider when you have an existing business and you want to grow that business. And we haven't even touched on things like markets, on financial analysis, on human resources. It's pretty much been the regulatory environment we've heard from today. So how do we register the business and things like legal structure, name, and so on and so forth. That's why I love working with a small business development center, because our role is to provide you guidance, information, knowledge, resources that can help you start and or grow your business. It's a very complex, competitive, global economy that we live in. So the role of the SBDC is to provide you with some direction, perhaps help identify challenges and pitfalls before you encounter them. SBDCs, our consulting services are confidential. They're no fee. We're funded in great part by both the Small Business Administration and our good friends at the Department of Community and Economic Development, as well as banks, economic development agencies at the county level. So our consulting services are provided at no cost to you. So, St. Vincent College, everybody know where St. Vincent College is? Latrobe, PA, about an hour north, home of Fred Rogers, Arnie Palmer. Perhaps you've been there for the Pittsburgh Steelers training campus at St. Vincent College. Well, we're also fortunate to be one of those 18 schools that host an SBDC. Small business development centers typically have geographic territories that they work within. St. Vincent, we cover Westmoreland and Fayette County. So you don't necessarily have to travel to Latrobe, PA to meet with a consultant. About 4 or 5 years ago, we entered into a partnership with our good friends at Fayette Penn Economic Development Council here. And we're typically on site every other Friday here in their offices right outside of Uniontown, off 119. We meet with clients, well, we generally break them into 2 categories, what we call pre-venture, individuals that are thinking about or considering starting their own business, or existing businesses. Businesses that are hopefully growing, maybe they're looking to introduce a new product. Perhaps they're looking to go international and they need some help with export assistance. Perhaps the growth of the company has constrained their ability, let's say maybe liquidity, to continue generating the types of revenues that they had in the past. Oftentimes it's funny, it's almost ironic, that the faster you grow, the more business will absorb cash. Sort of counterintuitive, but we see that quite often, that I get phone calls, in many cases referred from lenders, and here's how the phone call goes. I know what it's gonna say. It's, hey Jim, we started a business about, I don't know, 2 years ago, and we're really going great, and we just hired on 3 more employees, and I have 2 new trucks, and we took on this big project, and I got a contract with them all, and I'm just waiting for it. What am I waiting for? But, here comes but. But you know what? I can't seem to make payroll like we used to. And, you know, I talked to my accountant, he says, we're making money, but we owe the IRS, and we owe the state, well, you know, and all these, again, considerations and complications start to impact the business. So what you might have enjoyed as a very small business becomes more demanding and more challenging as you grow the business. Well, in many cases, just like some of the things we heard today, we don't know what we don't know until you encounter it, all right? So when I hear these things, I said, boy, I wish I had talked to you 6 months ago. I wish I had told you that controlled growth, slow growth may be a better avenue than rapid accelerated growth if you're not prepared for it. Those are the kind of objective sounding boards that SBDCs provide to you. We don't lend any money. St. Vincent's never lent at all. However, we work very closely with the financial community, both private sector organizations like Somerset Trust Bank and or public agencies, mission-based lenders, nonprofits. There's a host of different avenues where capital is readily available because capital is a necessary ingredient to grow a venture. But all those folks, again, they're going to need to see some sort of documentation, some sort of evidence that you have thought through your project, that you understand not just the positive growth cycle, that everything's going to be rosy, but you also understand there's risk involved. You know how to perhaps mitigate that risk. And you recognize that there's always risk, there's always surprises, but how are we going to handle it? So the best way to communicate that is through some sort of formal business plan. Now, does that mean you have to write a Shakespearean novel? No. But you need to answer questions like, who are we? What are we doing? Who are our customers? And most importantly, why are we going to be successful? Why, when 7 out of 10 new businesses fail within the first 3 years, why are we going to be successful? What is our unique competitive advantage? So it's a process. It involves a lot of self-reflection, and in many cases, there are unknowns out there that if we'll never eliminate the unknowns, but can we mitigate that? So let's look at the industry. You know, if the industry's gross profit margin is 25%, and you're going to the bank saying, well, our gross profit margin is going to be 65%, I have to ask you why. How are you going to do that? But if you don't even know what your industry's gross profit margin is, how are you pricing your products and services? Well, thankfully, we'll tie it into a lot of different databases, a lot of information resources, a lot of trade associations, where we'll benchmark or compare and contrast what the industry's doing, where you need to be. So we can build what we call financial projections. We use a lot of demographic analysis to measure markets. You can't come in and say, everybody's my customer. That's not true. Depending on your industry, depending on where you're located geographically, you may have a very finite number of customers. So these are tools that, again, are available to you. As I said, I'm down here every other Friday working with folks like yourselves. And, you know, for you guys that are thinking about starting a business, I applaud your initiative. I mean, as we saw earlier, Representative Dowling shared some statistics with you. Now, small businesses are the backbone of our economy, but it's not easy. It really isn't. And even if you have that great idea, even if, you know, I'm from Southwestern, actually I'm from Uniontown. I could say this. I have never, in 30 years of this, had somebody come in and sit down with me and say, Jim, I want to start this new business so I can fail. This never happens, but a lot of them do. So, again, you want to try and increase the probability of success. What is the ultimate goal of business? I'll ask you guys, what's the ultimate goal? Yes,
Make money.
close. What is the ultimate goal of business? You have to make money, but beyond that. Anybody? Yes?
Success.
I like it. You want to be successful, you want to make money, but beyond all that,
Make a profit.
profit. These are the answers you typically would expect, and they're not necessarily wrong. I would submit, however, the ultimate goal of business is survival. Survival. We've heard a lot about what it takes to start a business, to register a business name, to form a legal entity, to acquire capital, those sorts of things. Starting a business, I mean, quite frankly, can be a little bit painful, but once you get through it, that's the easy part. It's staying in business. It's growing the business. Longevity, right? So we focus a lot upon looking at, don't tell me what you want to do today. Paint the picture for me 5 years from now. What's your business look like? Then we'll figure out how to get there. Okay. So, SBDCs work with all industry sectors. We work with retailers, manufacturers, wholesalers, contractors, professional services. SBDCs work with companies in all stages of the business life cycle. Startups, pre-venture, growth, mature, decline, succession. We're pleased to work with a number of very respected and strong partners in Fayette County. Again, Fayette Penn does a wonderful job hosting us down here, not only for the consulting, but we also do a number of training events throughout the year, various topics, human resources, financial statements. We did a Google workshop, I think, in March, trying to better promote the online presence for businesses. But we're tied into a lot of these organizations primarily because of funding. When you get into this world, if you don't live it, I call it the alphabet soup. There's so much capital on the sidelines that it's hard to figure out which programs apply to my business and what are the requirements and the policies and the procedures. So to try and cut through a lot of that is again, a great part of what we do at the Small Business Development Centers. So, let me leave it at that. I understand questions will be at the end, but I'll stick around. I have some literature here, contact information. Feel free to stop by and chat about your individual business or your proposed business venture. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Conkle, today. St. Vincent's SBDC can be a great resource to many of you in the room. I'd encourage you to talk to him before you leave today. Our next speaker is going to be Bob Shark. Bob is with Fayette Penn Economic Development Council, and he is their executive director. Bob is a great advocate for businesses in the Fayette County area, and someone I've had the pleasure to get to know over the past couple years. Bob Shark is, as I said, the executive director for Fayette Penn Economic Development Council. Fayette Penn opened its doors in 1991 and assists in growing and diversifying the economy in Fayette County. Fayette Penn is the preeminent first-stop-shop economic development organization in Fayette County and provides comprehensive, second-to-none business development services. The newest small business feature that Fayette Penn has added is a business accelerator developed in conjunction with Penn State University that offers free flex space and business support services to budding entrepreneurs. Mr. Shark has over 35 years of experience with a variety of public and private organizations in various technical and business capacities, including over 15 years of experience in economic development. He holds a bachelor's and 2 master's degrees and resides in Connellsville. As I said, Bob has become a friend of mine, and it is with great pleasure that I introduce him and bring him up to the podium to share some thoughts with you today.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll try to be brief and lively as some of the later presenters have been, because I know we're getting close to that magic hour on Friday afternoon here. Just a little bit about Fayette Penn. As Matt indicated, we've been around for over 25 years now, serving residents and businesses in Fayette County, trying to create jobs, business investment, and increase the quality of life in our particular county. And just a question for the businesses here. Is there somebody from outside of Fayette County, or is everybody from the business community here within Fayette County? You're at Washington County. Washington County. Everyone else is Fayette? Okay. Can I just get a real brief introduction on the kinds of businesses that we have? So whoever wants to start, I know we have an arts group that is still here somewhere, but who else? Go ahead.
There's two of us.
Okay, all right, who else? What are the kind of businesses do we have represented?
Insurance.
Insurance, okay. You folks?
Machine shop.
Machine shop, okay. Sir?
Locksmith.
Okay, all right, so kind of a variety of different service and product-based organizations. And that's interesting that we have that diversity here, but I just wanted to get a little poll on the kinds of folks that were present here today. Fayette Penn does a lot of different things, but I'm going to break it down into 3 major categories, and then we'll focus on the small business part. So typically, from an economic development perspective, you can either try to get businesses to come in from outside of the county and relocate here. So you might be familiar with the Boeing facility, for example, that is in Smithfield. That's one of the things that Fayette Penn does, is work outside of Fayette County to try to bring those types of organizations here. One of the biggest areas that Fayette Penn gets involved in is working with the businesses that are already here looking to expand. And right now on our plate, this has been the busiest time since I've been with Fayette Penn, and it's almost 4 years now, in terms of the expansions that are going on with some of the businesses that are located here. And by the end of the year, we're hopeful that we're going to have some really good news to talk about in terms of job creation and investment that's gone on in the community here in Fayette County. And then thirdly is working with small businesses or entrepreneurs and helping them establish their businesses, grow them, and become successful, and as Jim said, to survive. We try to make them competitive in a global marketplace. You've heard a lot of information today from a lot of different sources, and it's probably, one of the speakers here talked about it being mind-numbing. The thing to remember, you're experts in your various fields of technical expertise, whether it's machine shops or the art community or locksmithing, and nobody expects you to be business experts right off the bat. That's why the folks around the tables here in the room are available to you. You don't have to know all the answers to the questions and how to be successful to survive. You don't even have to know all the questions, quite frankly. But if you know who to go to, or at least who to start with, that's the key. And don't be afraid to take advantage of those resources. Virtually everybody here in this room provides free services to small businesses. There may be some nominal charges in some cases, but by and large, they're here to help businesses succeed, and somebody else is paying the dime to help that happen. So from the small business perspective, what does Fayette Penn do? Well, Mr. Kunkel here has already talked about some of the things in terms of working with his organization from a business planning perspective. Some of the other folks in the room, like the Somerset Trust folks that Jim also mentioned, work with us on providing financing to small businesses. Typically, when you're starting off, you're not really bankable to a lot of bank or commercial lenders anywhere. Somerset County is one of the exceptions to that. We work very closely with them, and they're willing to take on some of that additional risk that a small business presents from a loan perspective and helping them get off the ground. Now, that's not to say that other banks here don't do that, but we've noticed that Somerset Trust tends to have a higher tolerance for risk in that particular arena. And that's one of the niches that Fayette Penn serves from a financial perspective. We make loans to small businesses that are typically higher risk and may not be able to get in front of commercial lenders and make a successful pitch to get that kind of money. So if you're looking for loans, we're a good place to start. And we work with companies like Somerset Trust and other banks and other non-traditional lenders to help put a complete package together for organizations that might not otherwise be able to do that all by themselves with their bank of choice. Lots of state programs that you heard about today. Another loan program is something called PIDA, Pennsylvania Industrial Development Association. Those loans are for things like equipment or acquiring property and things of that nature. Some paperwork that you have to go through in order to get those kinds of loans. There are organizations like Fayette Penn here that can help you work through that paperwork. So some of the other things I just wanted to touch upon real briefly, the Arts Folks Council here. A little bit out of our wheelhouse, but the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council, have you ever worked with them? Okay, great. We worked with Liz Jones up in Collinsville to get a grant to do some after-school arts training for disadvantaged youth. So if you're interested in pursuing stuff like that, we can help you through that grant process, quite frankly. And there's other sources of that type of information or grant money available. Not going to be sustaining for your organization, but if you have a particular program that you're looking to fund, we might be able to point you in the right direction. Okay, some of the other things from a small business development perspective that haven't been touched on right now. Your machine shop, how big is it?
Just starting.
Okay, so you don't have a facility yet, or? Okay. If you're looking at things like energy efficiency, and you're going to install LED lighting in that facility, there's actually rebate programs to do that. You might not be aware of that, but somebody in this room is. And that's the kind of stuff that you might not even know to question, that if you're working with an organization to help you get off the ground, they should be able to help you with those kinds of things. So energy efficiency, LED lighting, there's an organization called PenTap that provides all that assistance to small businesses for free. And they'll come in and do an audit of your facility, and again, rebates available for some of those kinds of energy efficiency conservation matters. You heard some, I think it was DJ talking about government contracting with the state of Pennsylvania. Has anybody considered that in your business arenas to do work with government agencies to increase your bottom line? Okay. There are people that will help you with that. An organization that covers Fayette County is the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission out of Pittsburgh. They actually have two gentlemen that have been in Fayette County on a number of occasions, worked with about a dozen businesses to help them do marketing and sales to not only the federal government, but also the Pennsylvania government. So the stuff that you have to go through to register with the Department of General Services in Pennsylvania to do business with them, those folks are experts. They can help you do it. Again, you don't need to know that information. You just need to know that somebody is out there that can help you with it. And asking anybody in this room, they'll be able to point you to somebody that can help you with those kinds of things. How about exporting? Anybody interested in doing exporting of their products outside of the US? There is a federal agency in Pittsburgh out of the Department of Commerce that can help you do that. Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission also has people that help you with exporting. DCED has an office that can help you with exporting. 3 different organizations at various levels, and they work together fairly well, but there are those kinds of resources available to you. If you want to partner with a foreign company that wants to do business in the US and is looking for a US presence, there are people that can help you do that, and they track leads. Pennsylvania has a little over 20 representatives that are stationed throughout the world, and their job is to find opportunities for foreign businesses to partner with companies in Pennsylvania. Another way to increase your bottom line. Anybody ever thought about that before? Machine shop? Who knows? Supply chain. You want to be involved in creating a widget that maybe somebody in Perryopolis needs to put into a piece of machinery that they're making that they're buying from Texas right now. Knowing that you exist would be helpful for that company because they can buy it here probably a lot cheaper, save shipping charges. So that kind of networking is also something that organizations in this room facilitate. Don't want to beat a dead horse. Look at this one pager that we've got on our table over here, and I've already wrinkled this one up, but here we go. What we've tried to do with this one sheet of paper is try to anticipate every single question or concern that a small business might have, whether it's financing, whether it's finding space, whether it's doing market research, whatever it is, and at least have some listing here to take a look at. See if anything on here jogs your memory or jogs your interest for working with your small business in a particular way that you may or may not how to consider, and there's somebody either in this room or somebody in this room that knows somebody else that can help you with that particular problem. So really that's what I wanted to focus on. You don't have to be the business experts to start with, at least, but understand there are people here that can help you do that. Now, you may not be able to do everything. You're still probably going to need to get your own attorney, your own accountant. You're going to have to pay for those kind of folks. You know, I can't say carte blanche, we can do everything for you. But certainly any of the other types of things that you're interested in learning about, whether it would be registering on a particular site that you need to be registered on in order to do business with somebody, someone here can help you with it. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. FAPEN definitely is the premier economic development agency in Fayette County. And over the past few years, I'll kind of give a brief history, but I've been working in some way in the Fayette County area since I graduated in college. I was an intern during college. And going back 10 or 15 years, our business community and our agencies didn't always come together collaboratively the way that they do right now. And I think some of that is because of the great work that FAPEN and Bob are doing, but also because of a great partnership that FAPEN has reached across the aisle and the Fayette Chamber has reached across the aisle. And they partner together with so many different things. A decade ago, that's something that you might not have seen in our Fayette County community, but something that I am so happy to see today, that we have that collaborative work that's taking place, not just with those two organizations, but with all the organizations in the room. We're really seeing a county that is friendlier to small business because of the work that these organizations are doing. I alluded to the Fayette Chamber of Commerce. I also have a long history with them. I was an intern in high school and college with the Fayette Chamber of Commerce, going back 15 years or so ago now. So I've been in that building in one way or another for the past decade. My legislative office is on the second floor, so we try to stay as in tuned to the business community in Fayette County as possible. The Fayette Chamber of Commerce is the voice of the business community. I know they say that many times, but it's very true. They have, I believe, over 700 business members, and they work everywhere from Main Street to the Capitol, promoting businesses, right on Main Street, to doing legislative work in Harrisburg. Our speaker from the Fayette Chamber of Commerce is their executive director, a good friend of mine, someone who's kind of been a second mother to me over the past decade. So it brings me great pleasure to introduce her, Muriel Nuttall. Thank you. Just be really young.
I do remember the 16-year-old in my office. Thank you, Representative. As Matt started out as a 16-year-old intern with the Fayette Chamber, as a second mother, so to speak. What a proud moment to see him now in the House of Representatives. Good to meet you all. I am Muriel Nuttall, Executive Director of the Fayette Chamber of Commerce. Fayette Chamber of Commerce, real quick. I know it's let's see, 5 till 2, so I know lunch is settling in. Everybody's done their trip out and trip in, so I'll try to be quick. Fayette Chamber of Commerce is a very diverse organization here in Fayette County. We do have a lot of members, and a lot of members in a lot of categories. So our friend that spoke earlier from the NFIB, they focus on independent businesses. We have all kinds of businesses. We have big business. We have small businesses, everything from the largest organizations in Fayette County to the mom and pops, sole proprietors, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, all a part of the work of the Chamber. So we do 3 things primarily in our office. We're going to make it very easy. We do community development, economic development, and workforce development. In those 3 categories, the things that our members are a part of is huge. We have everything from networking, which is so important. I often think about this. Did anybody ever hand you a business card of a person to put on a roof? You just have the business card, you've never met that person, but then somebody else comes up and they have that person with them, and you can see their face and you can shake their hand, and then they hand you the business card. Do you know which one you're going to call back? 90% of the time? The one where you can see the face. Do you know what's so important about the Fayette Chamber of Commerce? We put those pieces together for you. We provide that networking that brings you together with the business community and with the community at large. I feel like in a lot of ways I'm preaching to the choir because several of you are members, but we provide that networking opportunity. We provide opportunities to help the community, things like our food drives, our school supply drives. Here's a question, and except for our Washington County friend, unless you come to Uniontown on a regular basis, which is good, do you know that for more than 25 years, the fireworks that are put off every year at the mall for the 4th of July, that's a give back to the community done by the Fayette Chamber of Commerce as a way of supporting the people in the community that support our businesses every day. So we're involved in a lot of things. One of our big mission areas right now, though, is workforce development. We actually have an associated nonprofit called the Redstone Foundation, and under that is the Fayette Business Education Partnership. Very much like the NFIB, every year we put out a survey to our membership and we say, hey, it's been a good year, it's been a rough year, what are your challenges, where do we need to focus our energies? And one of the things that has been coming back as a priority year after year after year is that our employers need employees. So a few years ago, about 5 years ago, our board of directors said, then let's focus our energies there, let's create a workforce development organization. And we do run one called the Fayette Business Education Partnership. Big, diverse funding from it comes in primarily from our business community and also from the Department of Labor and Industry through our WIB. There are so many cool things I could tell you about the work of the Chamber. If you like education, we do work in education. If you like to work in the community, in communities all over Fayette County, we have opportunity for that. Someone asked me, I guess I could ask this question quite a bit. I've been with the Fayette Chamber of Commerce, as Matt alluded to, for a while, probably 21 and a half years at this point. It's a long time to be with an organization, the nonprofit, and I get asked that question a lot, why? Why did you stay at the Fayette Chamber of Commerce? So let me tell you a little bit about why. And about why people join the chamber, about why our rate for members staying with the chamber is over 90%. It's 94%. And I think I can tell you best a little story here, a couple of words first. Fayette County is an incredible place. I'm going to go into kind of one of my Fayette County roles. I've lived in Fayette County all my life, born and raised in Brownsville. My parents owned independent pharmacies, so I grew up in business, literally grew up at the foot of my mother's desk, who ran the businesses, and my father, who was the pharmacist in the different businesses. I knew business from that perspective. Fayette County, great place to live. I have probably had the opportunity to move out of Fayette County about 6 times through my marriage. One time we decided we were going to take this job, we were going to go and look at it, and it was in a little town in Virginia, just kind of on the Virginia-North Carolina border. And so the first time we got in the car and we headed for the interview, we got to the summit, and it had snowed and we couldn't make it up the summit. So we thought, okay, it snowed, we'll stay in Fayette County this weekend. Evidently we're not supposed to go. So my husband reschedules his interview. We get ready, we get in the car, we go to head out again, and we make it this time as far as Friendsville. So we got clear to Maryland, and it snowed, and there was a tractor trailer turned sideways in front of us. I said, okay, I think we'll go back to Fayette County. So turned around and we drove home. So the third time he tried to arrange it, we had a situation come up with the house, and we had to stay in Fayette County, and then I figured that the universe was telling us we were right where we were supposed to be, and so we chose to stay. I'm happy here. We're happy to be doing a lot of work locally with our county commissioners. The Fayette Chamber runs the Fayette County PR project. I'm trying to hurry because it's late in the day. We do a lot of really good things. But that wasn't my story. Here's my story. This is why I work with the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce. This is why I've been here for 20 years, and this is why I hope, God willing, I can stay in this position for a long time more. Every year for years, I talked about the fireworks. We used to do a big festival, to do the Fayette County Independence Day Festival and Cook-Off. Now, we're less in the events business now. We still do the fireworks. We don't do a big festival. This one year in particular, though, the festival was big. We had a lot of participation. Our vendor line was full. The representative will probably remember this year. He's probably walking around on the field at the time. And it was the picture perfect day. Bright blue sky, some white clouds, 72 degrees. Not too hot, not cold, perfect. The field was crowded. People everywhere. Our entertainment lineup was good. It's fabulous. Exciting to us because our businesses were getting the opportunity to put some bucks in their pocket. Oh, it was a great day. Our headliner hadn't even started for the evening yet. So this is about maybe 6:30, something like that. People were just coming in from everywhere, and we started to get word in the tent that our vendors were running out of food. Okay. You get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, oh my gosh, there's like 10,000 people here. What do you mean they're running out of food? So I thought, okay, grab a pen and a piece of paper. I'll walk over and see if there's anything I can do. So I kind of walk over and I walk behind the vendor line, and I stood in awe. Because for the next 15 minutes, I listened to competitive restaurants say, I've got a case of chicken wings you can have. I've got barbecue sauce over here. Well, come down here. I've still got coleslaw. Come up here. I've got a half a case of ribs I'll give you. It was amazing. Our business community in Fayette County is astounding. This is the most family-oriented, comfortable, wonderful business community to be a part of. So when people ask me why I've been executive director of the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce for more than 20 years, it was because of a picture-perfect summer day when the care and concern of our business community became evident. If you're not members of the Fayette Chamber of Commerce, it's not real expensive. That's kind of a myth out there. Our average member with less than 5 employees pays less than $300 a year. You can't get any better than that. Sole proprietors pay even a little bit less. And if you're not a member, you need to be. I have some information. We'll give that to you. And I even have a card, which I've already handed one of these out today. We have a special running, so we can make that even less expensive. Fayette Chamber of Commerce isn't about the money. We're not out there to, no offense to the banks, we love our banks, but we're not out there to stuff the bank full of money. That's not what we're about. We're a nonprofit who likes to put our feet on the ground. We like to get in our business community, and we'll do anything in our power to help you succeed, I promise. If you're not a member now, talk to me, become a member. I promise you won't regret it.
Thank you, Muriel. And I think I do remember that day. That's not my most memorable of the festivals that we used to have. I remember one where I got my minivan stuck because it had rained, like feet of rain, onto that field, and we were trying to help get vendors out, and we got stuck, and Blaney Farms had to come tow us out. So we've had many good times there with those kind of community events. And the Fayette Chamber of Commerce, as I said, does that wonderful work on Main Street and in the communities to show off the assets of our business communities. Our final speaker today is kind of a success story speaker, and I alluded to the fact that I met with him about a year and a half ago. We did an episode of Legislative Report. If you're into social media, one of the things I do want to say real quick before I forget is look up my office on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also YouTube. And I mention YouTube because all of these Legislative Report tours of local businesses or tourism sites are available on my YouTube channel. Just search Rep. Dowling. But if you go there and search, you're going to find one of Ohio Pal Prince. And I met Steve for the first time whenever we went to do this tour. I'm not exactly sure how Ohio Pal Prince even ended up on our radar, but I'm glad that they did, because otherwise I would have had no idea that there was this relatively large employer that does a lot of work in Stewart Township, Pennsylvania. I would have maybe just glanced over that and not known they were there, because unless you're from the mountains, you may not be familiar with where they are. But a quick bio on Steve, and then we'll let him share his success story with you. Steve is the Vice President of Operations, partner, and 23-year employee of Ohio Pal Prince, which is located just outside of Ohiopyle, PA. He has a degree in computer science and business administration from Penn State University. After college, he, along with two other partners, started and operated a successful software and IT consulting business. In 1995, he moved into the manufacturing world, joining Ohiopyle Prince. Steve is married and has 3 grown children. He was born and raised in Elizabeth, PA, and currently resides in Pleasant Hills. It's my honor and privilege to welcome Steve to the podium to share some thoughts with you. Steve?
I'm going to speak up here because I have notes, and I think my son, who lives in Seattle, might be watching this on the live stream. So I want to make sure we get the, because I want to get some of his feedback on my topic today. I'm going to tell you, as I was listening to all these folks speak, my entrepreneur brain was, sparking, and I was hearing this and that. It's all wonderful stuff. And this list, you should just save this permanently. Take a picture or something, because these folks, as your business develops, are going to be very useful to you in the future. I will say, as having started my own business twice and failing once, not too bad, but just failure to launch, you have to kind of do things in parallel. You have to do everything these folks say, but then you also have to run your business. You cannot fail to do that. So I think it was Paul who was talking about starting a brewery. You want to start a brewery, start brewing beer. And start giving it to your friends and selling it, even if it's not, kosher to sell it, without the license or whatever. And then at the same time, in parallel, go out and get everything, insurance and licenses and everything, because you need to do both. It's like walking, it's just easier with 2 feet if you do it, I had an open topic for today. So I'm going to talk about what's on my mind currently. Ohiopyle Prince, we have 150 people on the payroll as of today. It goes up a lot in the summertime when we get all the high school and college kids. What's on my mind is this. Well, let me say what my partner said to me. He says pretty often, it's a little phrase he says. He says, I like to say something out loud more than once so I convince myself I'm right. Okay? So he'll get an idea, and I do the same thing. Get an idea, and you keep talking about it. People get sick and tired of us talking about it, but you say it enough times, and you say, I'm onto something there, because they stop arguing with you maybe. On the topic of business plans, we make a business plan every week. Okay, we literally have a planning meeting every Tuesday. Every morning we have group meetings. We are constantly making a business plan. You have to, because things change. So my topic for today is, let me start off with saying, about this time last year, I was in the San Francisco area. Father's Day is coming up. I'm proud of my kids. We were taking my son to his new job at Google, okay, and we got to tour the big place there, and it's a fantastic place. Okay, there's probably more interesting things to see there in any office park you're ever going to visit. Okay. And there's, they have things like restaurants and cafes that are open 24 hours a day. They have bicycles that are just piled around the place. Anybody wants to go from one building to the next, you jump on any old Google bicycle and you go down to the next building and you just drop it off. And they have plantings, beautiful landscaping that the employees take care of. They've got outdoor fire pits for meetings. They're large enough to have meetings. They have, my son takes a big tour bus every day to work. They drive through all the areas of the valley and pick people up and bring them to work. It's an interesting thing. My topic here is, why do they do that? Okay, so I'm going to make sure I stay on my notes a little bit, but I wanted to say that Google does that for a reason. And I didn't think I had too much at Ohiopyle Prince in common with Google, but the more I thought about it, they're not this wild unicorn that's just some freak of nature. They're a lot like a Fayette County business, like Ohiopyle Prince. So I'm going to jump to Fayette County and talk about our company. If you come to our campus, okay, they call the Google thing the campus, it's nothing like that. I mean, our building is rough made, we have rough people, and we get the job done, okay, a day in and day out. We work right now, we're working a 50 or 58 hour work week, all of our employees, because we're at capacity and we have customer orders and we're trying to keep that going. But But let me tell you a little humbling experience that sticks in my mind that happened in the fall. And that was, I had a visitor, and she was a young MIT-trained engineer, and I was giving her a tour of our plant. And I'm really proud of our place. We've worked hard to build it. But she's worked on the production floors at Apple and at Tesla, okay? And I'm telling you, when I walked around, I was really intimidated by what I saw in my own business. You give a tour of your business, you see things like, oh my, I can't believe we've had that laying there for that long. It's like having someone stop in at your house. And I saw the peeling paint and the floor and the chips and the junk that was sitting around. It was eye-opening. But she was a good sport on that and didn't point those things out to me. But we don't have a fancy fire pit. We have picnic tables that are just kind of strewn around the building. We have break rooms that they really need a good going over. But what I think about most of all is, I think it was Muriel that said this, that she kind of stole my thunder a little bit. It's the people, okay? We do life together all the time. One of the earliest stories I know about our business was the first party, off-site party that we had 35 years ago. It was the first summer. I wasn't around then. And they went and they rented a pontoon boat down in Yawk Lake. And there was enough, whatever the number of people were, they fit on a pontoon boat. And they were going back and forth and, drinking beer and whatever. They're young 20-year-olds. And somehow the weight of the pontoon boat got too far forward. And the whole boat went underwater, okay, and dove into the water. And everybody on the boat went crashing forward. And then eventually the thing surfaced and popped back up out of the water. Well, guess what they did the rest of the afternoon? They'd go across the lake, and everybody'd say 1, 2, 3, and they'd run to the front of the boat, and it went down like the Titanic and popped back up again. So that's a story that sticks with me. We're known for having a blowout Christmas party. We just really enjoy it, and we have it at the Stonehouse most years for all these years. And one year, it was maybe one of the first ones I ever went to. It was really fun, and for some reason, the dancing then was more like this. It was just jumping up and down, early 90s something or other. And at some point during the evening, the manager of the Stonehouse restaurant came down and said, "You guys have to stop because we think you might be starting to damage the building." So those are things that stick out, in my mind. Last week, I was walking across the production. I'm sorry. I was walking across the production floor, and I heard an older time employee, maybe been with us 20 years, and he was talking to a employee that had just started that week. And he said, right there is where Richard died. Okay. Richard was just a regular old employee. He was there on a regular old day, and he had a heart attack. He was a young man with kids and a wife. He had a heart attack and died at work. He passed away before he ever made it to the floor. And we gathered around him, we did CPR, we tried everything, we waited, the paramedics came, and there was probably 100 people in a big circle, just praying for him and worried about, and just, it wasn't meant to be, So that's kind of where I'm coming from in my thoughts, okay? So I'm giving you some background. My son who works at Google, okay, he came home for Memorial Day weekend. We had a family wedding, and he was showing my wife something that his work internet site there at Google that the employees use. And they have this Google map, but it's actually their offices. And there's hundreds of locations, and I don't know how many, I should know how many employees, tens of thousands of employees they have. And he was showing her, you can go to the one in Dubai, and you can click on the office, and you can click on that desk, and you can see a little biography about that person and their photograph. And my wife says, "Let me see your desk." And so he goes to the office there in Mountain View, and he shows her his desk, and there's his picture. And of course, my wife, being a mother and him being a single young man, she says, "Oh, who's that across in the next cubicle? That is a pretty young girl, And him being a young software engineer, he said, "I don't know. I've never talked to her yet." And he's been there a year, So that's In my mind, that's like the opposite of what you get when you come to Ohio Powell Prince. You get it, when you walk in the door to Ohio Powell Prince, you're going to be overwhelmed with the number of people that you'll meet on your first day there. You may meet your future wife or husband, or you may meet the person that you can't stand to be around, but it doesn't matter. You're going to meet a lot of people that first day. And we are faced, just like Google is, with competition for employees and a desire to have good quality employees and to keep the employees we have. Okay, it's really important because I think of people that are just starting out in business, or maybe you've got one or the hardest employee you'll ever hire, the 151st employee is not hard. Okay, I make that decision within moments of meeting the person. We'll try just about anybody. It's easy. Hire your first employee. That's the most difficult one. That's like jumping 20 feet up straight in the air. And so you want to make sure that you're ready to form a relationship with that person and to satisfy that person's needs as a human being. Okay. I'm off my notes, good. The thing that's very common is almost all social interaction that our grandparents knew about is almost gone. Okay, I'm talking card club, bowling leagues, Kiwanis, Lions Club, PTA, Boy Scouts, churches of all stripes. They're all having difficulties. I'm not saying it's bad or good, it's just difficult. And so most young people will never know what it's like to join a civic organization, or they'll know probably just a few things, their college friends and their high school friends, and then where they work. Okay, and any young people want to argue with me on that, there's not a whole lot, and that's it, that's their circle. Because to form even a basic friendship, statistics say it's 40 hours of direct contact with that person before you consider them a friend. Where's that going to happen at? It's not going to happen in the Walmart parking lot. It's going to happen at work, at school. Okay, there's not a lot about church. Those sort of things are still out there, but they're not what they used to be. So Google puts their employees on a bus every morning with the hope that as they're driving to work, that people will intermingle a little bit, even though they're all mostly software engineers and so forth, and they will take them on field trips to a Giants game or something. We do the same thing at Ohio Powell Prince. We have nacho lunches on Thursdays, okay? I mean, it doesn't cost much to feed 150 people nachos. It's pretty inexpensive. We have pizza. That's pretty, you order a pizza for 150 working people. It's a pretty serious amount of pizza. But we love doing it because when you're waiting in line for the pizza, you're meeting the accounting person. You're meeting the person that works in sales. We have 40 salespeople or so, and we have artists, and we have a lot of different people that wouldn't normally mingle. So as a company, we try to have things that stir the relationships up within the company, because we're in competition with the gas drilling company, Nemacolin Resort, the rafting companies in Ohio, Powell, the casino, and people wanting to go out and start their own business. So it's important to us to get those relationships going and for people to communicate. It's not easy. It's not easy. There's always the stinker in the bunch that that's going to cause you trouble, and there's always the wonderful people too that will do anything for anybody. I just want to throw out a couple ideas. I made a list of some things I think we're doing right. You can look up Google's anytime you want, and you see all the things that they do. When someone in our building gets sick or has a baby or they get married or something like that, we pass around a card with an envelope, and everybody signs the card. And it's a cool thing to see a card with 150 signatures and the envelope stuffed full of money, with $1 bills and $5 bills and that sort of thing. It's great, We have a profit sharing plan where we share part of the bottom line with our employees, and passing those checks out at the end of a quarter is a great thing. We're not super high paid positions, and when you get a bonus check, it's a serious benefit. We have large numbers of families and friends working together. When I was leaving the office, there was a group in my direct office. They were all going down to Myrtle Beach or somewhere for the weekend. Just powering in the car together. A pretty common standard in our place is to try to know everybody's name. make an attempt at it. It's hard, but eventually you can do it. I probably know, out of the 150, I probably know 125. I don't know. I'd have to do a test. We hire entry-level employees. That's a great pleasure for me, to be able to interview somebody who maybe has had a child at a time that they didn't plan, and that their opportunities for college or something like that are just not there for whatever reason, but to be able to bring them in, or maybe they're just rough. We have a lot of rough people, that just could not even walk into a McDonald's and pass that interview. The standard of, the blue-eyed, blonde, beauty that the McDonald's likes to put up on their bulletin board. So we can do a lot with those folks. We have a great relationship that just sprung up on us by accident with a halfway house up near Fort Necessity called Another Way. And we have usually about 10 men from that halfway house working at our facility at any time. And they're great, fantastic, wonderful guys that they made a wrong decision. They stepped on the third rail of life and they ended up there, and so it works out. It's a great relationship. So anytime you can form that kind of relationship, even if you're hiring your first employee, don't overlook somebody who is going to really appreciate that first job. We have a liberal approach to expenses on buying donuts and pizzas, and I didn't used to be that way. I'm mostly of German descent. I'm going to count every nickel. I get upset when we buy too many rubber gloves. I'm storming around the place saying, where are all these rubber gloves going? But whenever it comes to things that whatever they are, whatever someone wants to do, take your team out to lunch or something. It's money well spent. You couldn't, it's like putting fuel on a fire. You can't put the fire out by throwing more wood on it. It pays off. A couple things we're planning on. We're really trying to build our spirit of innovation. We've been mostly entrepreneurial led, which means the owners are passionate, and then we have a small number of managers, and we kind of wake up every few hours during the night thinking about how to make the business better. But now we're trying to push that out to more and more employees. And we've always had great spirit of employees there and that sort of thing. But we want to just get it more and more. We're talking about, I don't know if we'll do it. It might be a year or two before we get even started. But we want to put a big front porch on our building, sort of like a Cracker Barrel. So this would be like a 100-foot long porch, so that our employees can, go outside and be able to shelter from the Fayette County. It's either blazing hot sun or it's rain. It seems like, when you're out for lunch. And so that's something we're trying to do, just little things like that just make it a good place to live and to work. That's all I've got to say. I just say, remember that when you're doing your business, whatever it is, even if it's a government agency, you're doing life. That's it. There is no other life when you're at work, and it's a huge chunk of your time. So that's where I want to finish it off. I really appreciate being here with all you guys and the opportunity to talk to you. So thank you very much. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for being with us today. I want to thank all of our speakers. We are going to conclude here in just a moment. There will be some time. If you need to pick up something from a table, you're welcome to do so. But I would ask before you leave that you just let me run through a few thank yous for the day to Ohio Pow Prints and to Somerset Trust. Thank you very much for your sponsorship of today's lunch meal. We want to thank Jonna Pro with DCED, DJ Polygon with DCED, Kevin Shrivers, who was here from NFIB, from the Pennsylvania Insurance Department, Dave Bono from St. Vincent Small Business Development Center, James Kunkel from FAPEN, Bob Shark from the Fayette Chamber of Commerce, Muriel Nuttall, and also from Ohio Pow Prints, Steve Scheidel. We did have on the agenda that we would take any questions and answers. So while I still have some experts in the room that can help me answer those questions, I would open it up to that if anyone has any questions. If not, I would encourage you to see those people around the outside of the room with your questions, because they may be best to answer them anyway. But real quick, does anyone have any questions in closing? The last thing I will share with you, since we talked a little bit, and Steve was talking a little bit about his facility, I did mention that we do have a YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and search for Rep. Dowling, one of those legislative reports that's on there, there's a number of videos, but one of those legislative reports is of Steve's company, and you can see he and I rather nervously taking a tour with a bunch of camera people through his facility. But it is very fascinating and interesting. There's also a number of other business tours on there, and for that purpose, I'd encourage you to go to YouTube and search Rep. Dowling for all of those videos. Again, I thank you for coming out today. I wish you all success for those of you who are starting businesses, for those of you who are expanding your businesses. And if there's anything that I or my office can do for you, please let us know. Thank you so much. Have a safe trip home.